So just before I start, is it Welsh Dragons? Is it Dodgeball Cymru or Cymru or how
Interesting.
do you...
Yeah, I like that. Dodgeball Cymru.
Cymru.
Ooh, I would not have picked it. Cymru. So basically, you
Perfect.
just switch the two letters out. It's Cymru instead of Cymru. How you write it?
Oh, so in Welsh that is phonetic. So the entire language is entirely phonetic. So in Welsh it's k is c. So
okay, yeah, that makes sense. But like
and
the
then,
U is a Y and the Y is a U because if it's
I
Cymru,
see. Yeah, U is an I pronunciation, and then a Y pronunciation is so it is phonetic in Welsh, but obviously
so
reading
it's
it. Cymru, perfect.
Cymru.
That's really good.
Okay,
yeah,
we'll try that. Okay,
I back it.
But if you want to go with Welsh Dragons or Wales Dragons, you're welcome to do so. We'll explain all, don't worry.
hello everyone, welcome to the Everything Dodgeball podcast. I'm your host Stefan Leitinger, and today I'm joined by the Welsh Dragons, Dodgeball Cymru. Was that good? That was good? Okay, we're gonna keep it like that. Dodgeball Cymru. Yeah,
I mean, I'd go with Elisa in terms of how the pronunciation was.
Okay, so we're just gonna start right away with my guests Elisa and Phill from Wales, and they're gonna tell me how to pronounce Dodgeball Cymru, right, and why they're called this and instead of the Welsh Dragons. All right, so we're gonna just jump in with Elisa. Correct me, please.
So it's a really good attempt though, but yeah, Dodgeball Cymru, which is phonetic in the Welsh language, but I can see how it's probably confusing having the U pronounced as an I. But yeah, Cymru is how we'd pronounce it. And over to Phill for all the hard work he's done to push the Welsh language on why we're called Dodgeball Cymru.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I suppose it's a really interesting one. I think because I took over the manager role in 2023 towards the end of 2022. Sorry, and I feel like, and I don't know if Elisa agrees with me, but I felt like we'd lost a little bit of our identity. Really, Wales is like a really proud kind of nation. I'm not by any means saying that other nations aren't proud and don't take a huge sense of national pride and have very distinct values and culture, but I think certainly Wales is a real passionate nation. It's a very small nation relatively in terms of population size and what have you, and often we're seen as England's little brother in the corner, and so I just felt that there was something we could do to kind of recapture that identity with the dodgeball team. And so, I don't know if you know, Stefan, but Wales has its own language. Whilst English is very prominent in Wales, Welsh is the national language of Wales.
And actually one of the oldest languages in Europe. Just a little fun fact,
There you go. So
the more you learn.
There you go. So, and I think that's kind of certainly with some of the stuff, in our, things like social media, our kits and things like that. I think we kind of lost it a little bit, and that's not a criticism of anybody. We were, I look at our kit, for instance, and we were basically turning up in black towards the end. I mean, our last kit was very, very black, and so yeah, we did a little few things I think at the start just to kind of reestablish our identity, and one was kind of making sure that yes, we're called Welsh Dragons, we're still called Welsh Dragons, but we wanted kind of a dual name of both that represented English, I suppose, and Welsh. And then you may have noticed, but our social media posts over the last few years, we kind of duplicate either the posts and have both English and Welsh. Or just we kind of double up on everything in those posts. And then I think also with the kit, we've kind of gone back to kind of more traditional kind of Welsh values. We've gone, any sports team in Wales wears red, very passionate red, right? And we've kind of gone back to that with an away kit of green, which again is a very prominent colour in Wales. You look at our flag, it's, white, red and green. And we do have a dragon, and it proves to be very popular, our kit. I think it has turned into one of the more popular kits. But I think more so, it's just one of the things I really wanted to push when I started as manager is just to kind of recapture that identity, recapture the kind of the values of what Wales is all about, and try and reflect that in the team. I don't know, Elisa might be better to speak on whether that's worked or not, but it's certainly something that I was keen to introduce.
Okay,
No, it absolutely
sounds
has.
awesome. All right, Elisa. So just a quick question in between, and I sort of want to put you on the spot. Do you guys speak Welsh, and does everyone in Wales speak Welsh?
So I am a fluent Welsh speaker, and actually my first language is Welsh. So English is my second language, but yeah, I learned that through school at the age of like 5 or 6, and then obviously, like Phil said, everyone kind of speaks English in Wales. But currently, I think 25% of the population speak Welsh. So it's about 500,000 people. But there's quite a few of us in the Welsh squad that actually do speak Welsh, but there's a large majority that don't, which is absolutely fine. But that's kind of a bit of a history lesson to go down that road, really, which would be a podcast
really
in itself.
Yep.
Straight into the podcast and straight
yeah,
into here's Welsh culture.
yeah.
For you. Yeah.
So obviously Wales, we used to speak a lot more Welsh, but let's say certain invaders came in and then kind of impacted that, and then there was some history with the Welsh Not where we were banned from speaking Welsh for quite a long time as well. So it's kind of why I think Dodgeball Cymru actually means quite that much more, because especially to a lot of us, being Welsh is like a big part of my identity. So it means a lot, and especially knowing what our ancestors have been through, it's really important to keep the language alive, and it holds a lot of weight. So yeah, it's nice that quite a few of us still speak Welsh, and we actually use that on court, because when I know that there are Welsh speakers on court, I'm like, okay, Welsh calling time, let's go. And people are like, what are they saying? And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Secret language is fine.
Okay.
But,
so is there
yeah.
any similarity between Welsh and English, or is it like completely different?
It's quite different.
Okay.
The only similarities you have are any new words that have been created in the last like 50 to 100 years would be kind of translated very similarly in Welsh and English. But Welsh is, like I said, is quite old, so there's a lot of similarities between like Latin, realistically, and old Celtic nations. Old Celtic languages. So Scottish. Oh, I'm gonna butcher this. I think it's Gaelic or Gaelic. I'm really sorry, because it's different for Irish and Scotland. And then like the old Cornish as well. But yeah, there aren't massive similarities. It's actually more similar to European languages in the structure as well. But yeah, it's quite different to the Anglo-Saxon influences.
Awesome. So a little bit of a history and educational start to this podcast. I love it. Okay, so you've really tried to put that Welsh identity back into the squad and the team. What does that mean in terms of, so you made it with the kid, with the language and stuff like that, but what does that mean for the team itself and sort of the players you pick? I know there are lots of players playing in the English leagues. How is the Welsh setup? Do you have a league system in Wales, and how does that look on the national level?
Do you want me to pick this one up to start,
Yeah,
Lisa?
go for it.
Yeah, but chip in, please. But yeah, so yeah, essentially we do have essentially two populations within our squad. We have the English-based players and players that qualify for Wales through maybe mum or dad, or even granddad or grandmum to born in Wales. And then obviously we've got kind of the pure natives, if you like, those born in Wales. Myself included, with my very English accent. But I think where and obviously we are. I think what was really key for me with the whole identity piece is I think we needed something that the whole squad could kind of grab onto, in terms of something that we could all kind of have a real sense of pride. So if we have, a really nice kit that obviously represents Wales in a real kind of true manner, if we have our posts on social media or representing these things, I think it allows everybody, whether they are, native Welsh or non-native Welsh, to kind of have that sense of culture, have that sense of those Welsh values, that Welsh identity. And I think that then helps everybody come together a little bit more and shows everybody what we're trying to buy into. And I think, for those that maybe English Welsh, if you like, I think that they've really bought into, have bought into that. They love everything that we're doing. And I think over the last 2 or 3 years, previously we might have been a bit more disjointed as a squad, but I think we've made real strides over the last couple of years to bring the squads together. We were even training at times in England prior to 2023. Would you believe we were doing training sessions in England? And we decided, no, Cardiff is our capital city. We travel to Cardiff. I could have easily got a much easier gig at it. I live in England. I live in Warwick, which is about 2.5 hours away in good traffic. I could have easily made the decision, right, we'll train in Birmingham or something like that, and we'll all have a much easier time. But I think, it was important for us to travel to Cardiff and have that sense of kind of going to Wales and all that kind of thing. So, I think it's really helped with kind of bringing that kind of whole culture together for the squad. And I think everybody kind of senses that and believes in that, and like I say, has that kind of pride when they kind of then step onto court or saying that they're associated with the Wales team. I think that's really important.
And just to piggyback on that, as we've discussed multiple times before as well, we only have 2 clubs in Wales currently, so there's not, I guess, much funding there, and especially after COVID hit us quite hard, I guess, because we had quite a few university clubs, and we had a Welsh league, but that has since collapsed, and the Welsh teams joined the English leagues. So obviously we have a lot of like English-based players coming through that way, which is awesome, and it's amazing, and it's, we've grown the squad, and the squad is in a great place. Well, the best since it's been, I think, since I've started, which is really awesome. But it is kind of a little bit unfortunate that we don't really have Welsh teams feeding into to Wales as much as we possibly can. But yeah, we would definitely need like more funding from the governing body really to start more clubs and try and build up from the grassroots and stuff up. But we're still grateful for where we are now, and I wouldn't change anything, but it would be really nice just to get kind of more of a push.
Yeah, I mean, I think what might be quite interesting for, I think certainly when we rock up at Worlds last year and, with 4 squads and, huge numbers of players compared to previous years, we're going to be going with 5 squads this year, which, like I say, for a nation that only has 2 clubs, I think is quite impressive. But from the outside might look like we've got an abundance of resources and, players, like an England setup and having players all over the place. But the reality is that we're pretty much taking everybody that can play, and which is a good thing, absolutely. And that was one thing that we wanted to change as well, is having Wales as like a nation of opportunity. But I think the long-term challenge does scare me a little bit in terms of, how sustainable is having 2 clubs in your nation? How sustainable is relying on those that live in England who can qualify for Wales to ensure that you remain competitive at an international stage? And, where are the next Elisa Storches coming through? Where are the next Amy Joneses coming through? Do you know what I mean? And so, and that's not by any means saying that we're not grateful for those English-based players, but I think, we've got untapped potential in the nation of Wales, and we need volunteers, British Dodgeball, whoever to help us to create more clubs to have that long-term sustainability within Wales and bringing through more Welsh-born players.
Okay, that's very interesting. So, what are those 2 clubs that are currently alive in Wales?
So you've got Carmarthen Wizards, which is where I started playing dodgeball, and we have Ron the Dragons, which are an hour and a half, east. So both in South Wales.
Okay, and do they only compete against each other, or do they participate in the English leagues as well?
Yeah, English league. So Ron the Dragons are in Men's League 1 currently, and Carmarthen Wizards in South Men's League 2.
Okay.
Yeah, and Rhondda were fighting for promotion. League 1 was very spicy this year. It was very chaotic. I think like 6 different teams could have got promoted. It was crazy. I think they ended up 5th. Sorry if I'm wrong there. Yeah, but no, they're doing really well.
Okay.
No, and I'd just say with Rhondda as well is, a big portion of our squad will come from the Rhondda Dragons team this year, and we'll talk about potentially that. And they are thankfully investing in a youth program there as well. They do some fantastic junior stuff, and so we do have some of those kind of shoots of kind of optimism for the future coming through from there. But as amazing as all their work is, we need that 3 or 4 times in different places in Wales. We need more Rondas, to be honest with you. And so, and I know Carmarthen are trying to kind of reestablish a player base as well, which is great. But those are only 2 clubs in South Wales. We don't even really kind of venture into North Wales at all. And I don't know what your geography of Wales is like, Stefan.
Yeah, let's not get into that. It's somewhere on an island.
No,
next to an island.
Well, on a larger island. Yeah, but
from my perspective, it is.
Yeah, but you could. There is a real north-south divide, isn't there, Elisa, with Wales? And essentially, what you've got are the south coast and the north coast is probably the easiest way to really describe it. And so, the south coast, Cardiff, Swansea, Carmarthen, quite densely populated compared to the rest of Wales. And then North Wales, again, on the coastal lines, you've got some, not cities as such, but you've got some larger towns. And it used to be, and still is to an extent, how some of us will be getting to Ireland this summer, through Anglesey and going on the ferry that way. And then you've got the valleys in the middle, the mountainous areas. And so you've got some very small towns and villages in the middle, but you don't really have a way of actually joining up the two. Ironically, from a travel perspective, it's quicker to dive into England, drive down the motorways and come back in again if you're going from north to south. So that is also a challenge, I think, for any sport in Wales, to have that kind of connectivity between kind of essentially the 2 halves of Wales.
Okay, that's interesting. I just looked up the Welsh map for the first time in my life. I knew it was somewhere around England, but I honestly didn't know where exactly it said. So that is interesting. So I learned a little as well, because we've obviously been through Dodgeball. We've been to Ireland, we've been to Northern Ireland, we've been to Scotland and England. Oh, we're gonna go to Ireland now. We haven't been to Ireland as of yet, I think. But so Wales is still the little missing link. And I only know Wales basically because Andy Koch has family in Wales. So
does he actually? That's crazy.
Yeah, his mom is from Wales. I hope I'm not telling a lie, but I'm pretty sure that is true.
That's another one we can steal.
So yeah. So
slap
he's
that
retired,
transfer request in.
we put him out of retirement this one.
Yeah, it's fine. So it's all about the money with him. So if you have the funding, it's no problem at all.
Dodgeball and money in the same sentence is kind of funny.
It always is.
Yeah.
It makes every dodgeballer giggle at least. So we need more money. Of course we do. Yeah. Everyone does. But we're not gonna get it, apparently. No one who has money started playing dodgeball up until this point, I feel like. So otherwise it would have changed.
But I haven't told you about my super secret salary with British Dodgeball for being... I'm joking.
Obviously.
I wish.
Yeah, a secret salary, so no one talks about it. No one knows about it. Not even you or England. So that's how secret it is.
The salary is only one way, and it's just out of my account as opposed to in.
That's a weird salary. But
it's a
if
weird
it
salary.
works, it works. Okay, so you basically have a little bit of a setup in Wales. You obviously have the close proximity to England, and so you can sort of use that really big dodgeball hub to develop your players, and you have like that connection to really the top level play in Europe, which is always nice to have. And so I think it's really interesting that you try to that you reformed that identity of the Welsh team, because from the outside, from the beginning on, it sort of felt like, or sort of the rumors, and maybe that's really very uninformed, but it felt like the players who didn't get into the English squad tried to see if they have some relatives living in Wales or maybe Scotland or something, at least that were sort of a prejudice that has been ghosting around in some countries. I'm not going to tell where, not in Austria, obviously. So it seemed sometimes that Wales was just sort of England too, maybe, with a few English players from the outside. And so that is really cool to see that you're giving the whole team a new identity. And I feel like it really showed, because we have obviously played you guys a lot over the last few years. It seems like we've always, until now, been matched up in groups, mixed men and played you in the women's as well. So we sort of really saw your progression and saw that new team come around, because it really felt like a different team from the break before COVID and afterwards. So is there some truth to that? Was that something where like Wales was sort of for players who didn't make it into the English squad, or is that completely bullshit?
I mean, I don't know everything pre 2018, but there is probably because 2018 was my first international kind of experience with Wales, but I think that there historically was a little bit of that, where people would find some way of eligibility for Wales. And I think for the vast majority of our current players, though, I think they certainly the impression I get is that they would, I think players now want to invest their time in something that they're going to enjoy, and invest their time into something they're passionate about. And, because playing international dodgeball and the commitment that you need to do on top of staying at the top, at the top level at domestic, in your domestic clubs. So I think for anybody that can resonate with Wales, I think they would like to invest their time into Wales rather than just being, I'm not getting into England, I'll therefore go and play for Wales. It's, I'm going to choose Wales because I can see I can see myself in that setup. Lisa, I don't know if what's your thoughts?
Yeah, not to beat around the bush, I think there's absolutely an element of truth in it, 100%. I think people want to play internationally, and if there's an easier route than a really difficult route that they probably may try and invest a lot of money in and then not be successful, I can see them, going down a route that might be easier to play for a national team. I think that's definitely kind of been weaned out though in the last few years. Maybe there is still an element of truth there, but as far as I'm aware, I feel like the vibes and the passion that I get from the players, it doesn't seem like, oh, can't make England, I'll just turn up here. It feels like everyone's really dedicated and committed to representing Wales, when they turn up on that court, and give everything they have for Cymru. So, but I think it's a completely valid question, and I think we've definitely grown and moved away from that. And I think, like you say, you can see that the squad has developed quite a lot, and I think that has kind of been left behind as well under previous management. And I think, Phill has done a wonderful, fabulous job in the last few years, especially to kind of bring this, I would say, positivity and more like Welsh culture and authenticity, I guess, back to it. So I think completely valid, but I think we've definitely moved away from that.
Cool. That is nice to hear, because I think the more different nations and teams with really separate identities that we get, the more full the experience is at Euros.
Absolutely.
And so I think the Welsh team seems, that's at least the impression I always get, is a very emotionally invested team that really loves the sport and really is there to play and have a good time. And over the last few years, it really felt like a team and a really proud nation. And so it's cool that you're also using that sort of identity to grow and get the results that you got in the past and maybe progress from there. So maybe let's transition into the last few events, and obviously especially Worlds, where especially the Welsh team that what I saw was really, really promising. And I've heard from a few players now that they put the Welsh women's team in that top category. And I've heard from Phill as well that you have high aspirations for this tournament. So maybe, Elisa, tell me what has been like the progression over the last few years for the Welsh team.
I have to contain my excitement. Literally, I'm so excited for Euros. I've been so beaming. It's been a grind, and it's difficult when you're kind of trying to start to reestablish your feet a little bit when other nations are kind of established and are continuing to improve. You're almost playing catch up. So I feel like in 2022 in Drachton, we had a bit of a disappointing result because I think we came 7th overall because we got knocked out by your wonderful ladies in the quarterfinals. But I think we continued to grow from that, worked really hard for next year. And in Aussie again, that was a bit of a bumpy ride. And then we actually decided to split the genders from mixed, because I think we were kind of overworking our girls a little bit, and men as well. So I think everyone's just too fatigued when we get to the end of the tournament, playing the amount of games that we do. And then in the World Champs, we had women specific players for women's, men's for men's, and then mixed separate. And obviously then our women's came fourth. So we did really well, and it's awesome to see that kind of growth from Euros coming seventh in Ausiac, and then in Wex we came fourth, and then to come fourth in the world is kind of fantastic, and it just shows, I think, when you get the dedication and time, and just keep on building on everything we've done over the last 2 years, and just give it time to grow, and to kind of play that catch up. It just shows that we can do awesome things, and building on that since the World Champs in August, I think we're feeling quite confident going into Euros, and we've got a really strong squad. The women are looking amazing. Everyone's looking amazing, because we just had a big training session on the weekend, and we were swapping courts, and I was just having a look at everyone, and it's just awesome to see that we got representation in mixed form for the first time. Our men's have grown in form so much since the World Champs as well. Men's are looking awesome. Mixed cloth is looking great as well. It's just really exciting, and I'm just so pumped to get on court. Really, it's just the butterflies are there, but it's also like let's go.
I absolutely feel you. The closer it gets,
Yeah.
I'm really using basically this conversation like that to get a little bit of that feel, because I'm really excited as well, and it's just one week after the other.
You're not going to be able to contain yourself, are you? If you're doing this conversation like 10 times over the next couple of weeks, with all the different nations, you're going to get to Limerick and just explode.
Maybe, hopefully not, but I think I'm almost done. I've just got a few nations that I will still get to talk to till Limerick, but it's really awesome, and to see that light of excitement from everyone, and it really feels like having those conversations with all those different nations, that everyone is really excited, and
awesome.
There has been sort of a spark lit after COVID, after that long depression sort of. We really came back, and it really feels like the game and also the excitement for it has progressed so much. And I think lots of countries have done that through the youth programs, where I feel like you see new players come in, you see younger players join the sport, not just the same old faces. And it sort of also gives the older generation a little bit of a push, a little bit more of that excitement back. And that is something that I really feel for myself as well. So yeah, that's just cool. And I think the vibes are really ready for Limerick. So it's
100%.
2.5 more weeks. So it's getting closer and closer. But awesome, yeah. So obviously I saw that firsthand, like your play at Worlds, and that was really looking really, really promising, because like in the far past, the Wales women really always had some really strong throwers and strong players, and then it sort of trickled away for some reason that I don't know. Maybe it was because you lost a few clubs or something, or you lost players to other nations. I don't know. But this time it really felt that you were really back, and that decision you made, that you were splitting the divisions completely, is something that I think is a really interesting decision that every nation has to discuss, and we have discussed it a lot of times. And especially for those nations that are in the spots maybe between 10th and 4th or 3rd, it is such a tough balance, because you want your best players, and you need your best players to even get into those spots, to not play a quarterfinal against Austria and become 8th. So you need a lot of strain in the groups already, and if you do that over 2 categories or over all 3 of them, it's really tough to progress later on. So that's like a really tough decision, because everyone wants to play, everyone wants as many chances to win as they can get, but it seems to have really paid off for you. So how do you feel like the reception of that decision was for the team and for the whole program?
Yeah, I think we should have done it many years ago, to be honest with you. As Wales, we should have done it way before even I was manager. And if I'm being honest, when I reflect on Aussie Czech, we probably got, and when I say we, I'm referring to myself really, we got a lot of stuff wrong. I think we changed a few things, and we brought a few new players in, but we didn't get the playing balance right across many of our squads, to be honest. And there was understandably some disgruntlement about, I've invested time and money to be here, and some players were seeing a lot of the court, some players weren't seeing a lot of the court, and so and I think Wex as well, a couple of months later
It's a
for
wake up
us
call. Yeah.
was a real wake up call, because our women, we and again we had this philosophy of trying to bring more players through, and we wanted to have larger squads, provide more opportunity, but we didn't quite get it right, like I say, in Aussie Check. And then Wex, we proper went for it, and we split as many of our players up as possible, and
Yeah, 'cause
again
we had 6 women for 2 teams, and
yeah,
then all those women were in mixed. So we played, I think, was it 8 games or 16 games over 2 days or
yeah,
whatever, crazy, and it's just like, yeah, and no breaks. So
there was no
it's
breaks, and I think Elisa may agree with me here, but I think our women's ones in particular felt they could have won that tournament. And I think it was just by the end of day 2 they had nothing left. And
yeah, engine
uh,
was empty. Whereas the
Mm.
fact that we beat the winners in the groups and then
yeah.
came fourth, it's like,
Okay.
So I think that really, yeah, that. And so when we looked at kind of obviously player feedback, and we listened to the squad, and it's like, we want more opportunities to be on court, um, and also one of the things I tried to kind of set up to an extent, maybe not at the same level that maybe England have, but some kind of player development program of some sort. And so what we've then kind of stumbled upon really is like I say, splitting the squads a little bit, is that maybe with our mixed, we're allowing players that maybe haven't had as much experience at an international level to play. So, for instance, at the Worlds, there was a number of players on that mixed team that hadn't actually played a lot of international dodgeball. There was maybe a few matches between them, like very, very, very few matches that they played. And so giving them that opportunity to kind of showcase their talents, and they did a brilliant comeback against the Canadians, and in
oh, it was
one of
amazing.
it was
That was a great
and
game.
Mike Howell, bless it, just he was on one of
Popped
those
off.
highlights, popping off and saving the match at the end, and there was so many of those. And what we found actually, Stefan, is by giving those players that opportunity, is that we've got 2 of the men that were in the mixed team last year will now be in the men's for this year. And we've got one of the women as well stepping up into the women's squad, and so it just allows that give those people those opportunity to showcase what they're all about, in essence, to prove us wrong, and then and showcase why they should be fighting with the women's teams and the men's teams as well, and so. And again, I'm really proud this year as well that with our mixed team, we're going to be debuting about 2 or 3 new players in that team as well, particularly on the women's side. And so, yeah, we're really, I think we've kind of stumbled across something, admittedly, that is so far working for us. And like I say, gives people game time and that opportunity, because and maybe allows them to play a little bit more carefree in that team, that then, like I say, they're not a rabbit in headlights like I was in 2018, where it felt like a completely different sport when I stepped on court for the first time in a Welsh shirt. So yeah, I think it's working to an extent, but of course there's always going to be things that we can look at and progress. But yeah,
What
I think it's been a real positive for us.
To be fair, there's going to be pros and cons to every decision that you
Mm.
make, and sometimes it's hard to make the switch. And then if something goes wrong, you're like, well, it was the wrong decision. But it's like you gotta let it work out. And I agree. I think the pros definitely are the fact that you allow people to get experience that they probably wouldn't get a chance. And because if you're the 12th player, the 11th player, and you get on, and like you said, it's difficult. You're like thrown in the deep end. You're expected to do a job, but if you know that you're going to be in a squad and you're going to play majority of the games, you can really focus and get your head in the game, and any mistakes you do make, you can reflect and work on them for the next set or the next games. But you make a mistake when you're the 10th player, you get pulled off, and you're kind of like, oh crap, I can't showcase my ability now. I know obviously it might mean that we're sacrificing positions, but realistically, even when we did put a full strength mix forward, we didn't really perform because the cons were that everyone was exhausted and things, we weren't utilizing players effectively. And realistically now we've grown so much more that the depth is a lot stronger than it has been before. Like in Venice, in the women's in 2018, we had 6 women. We played an entire tournament with 6 girls. So the fact now that we have the capability to, fund fuel a women's team and a mixed form as well, it's just awesome. So it is a difficult decision, but I ultimately think it was the right one. And even if there are some cons now currently that we're missing out on certain things, I think it's worth it. And we may revert back. Who knows? But I think it's just having that malleable kind of opinion and perspective on it, that you can just kind of go with the flow with what works at the time, listen to player feedback ultimately, and try and give people opportunities where you can, and then just move from there.
Yeah, for sure. I think that is such an individualistic decision you have to make with all like your structures involved, and it seems like a really fitting decision for the way dodgeball is set up in Wales at the moment. And I think there are many different ways to go about it. I know that some nations who are maybe even smaller than Wales and have a really small core, they tend to go with the mixed team as the strongest team because it's easier to get 3 strong players from each division and do the other squads more of their development part. And obviously you have a really strong player core for the male and the female category. So the mixed categories also sometimes tends to be the toughest because many nations can put up a really strong mixed team, whereas they might not be able to have a really strong women's team there. I think, as you said, there are a lot of pros and cons. We had that at some point as well, where the mixed team was sort of the development team. At some point in the beginning was more of a social team where people could who didn't have that sort of competitive aspirations and just went there to have fun, which was a bit of a bad decision in hindsight because you had players, especially female players, who were just there to have a little bit of fun, play against maybe Tamas or Steve or something like that, which might not be the thing that gets them motivated to play more, but some people it might motivate more. So I think especially on the female side, it's sometimes quite tough to like get your first steps in on that level because the level is really tight in that mixed category. But
absolutely.
Yeah, as you said, it's not an easy decision, and it's one I think probably every nation has to revisit every year, and we've done so many different variations of it where we had split teams that were mixed with some players who were just mixed players and some players who played double, which had its own consequences. And so it's...
Well, I kind of like what you did with your women's in the World Champs, because when I didn't realize that's what you're doing until we had to face you guys in the semis, and I was like, oh God, what is this?
You didn't, Elisa, you didn't like it at the time. You didn't like it at the time.
No, I did not. I was mad, actually. I was fuming. But yeah, I feel like it's the same kind of concept in a way that, players may feel like they're kind of not able to showcase what they're able to do, but in this format, cool, you've got 3 sets, play as hard as you can, you're going to get 3 sets off, cheer your team, let's go, and then bam, you're back on. I kind of really like it. And well, obviously you guys got gold, but I'm guessing it was quite successful for the team vibes and synergy.
Definitely. I mean, there were some problems even there, and there are some players who may be used to even having more responsibility, more playing time, who have worked really hard, and then they might not have as much, I don't know, responsibility as they're used to. And so that might be an issue as well. So I think you have always sort of issues, but it is really important. And that is something where I think like the identity and the things you are doing for the Welsh team is so important, that you really get a team spirit where everyone knows it's about the team. It's not about you. It's not about one player. And obviously everyone wants to play. Everyone pays for it themselves. Everyone puts a lot of time and effort into it. So that is something that has to be considered. And it's not something that anyone can just put out of their mind. And it's something we're conscious about as well. But sometimes it's hard. And maybe if you are losing that game, you maybe not be able to get any more playing time later, and sometimes stuff works out and sometimes it doesn't. So I think that's just a tough decision for every nation.
It's the unique part of an amateur sport, isn't it, at this level? If it was football, you don't bat an eyelid really, because you're getting paid a ton of money. And don't get me wrong, everybody's still going to have that pride to pay for their nation. Of course they are, but at least they're not paying money out of their bank accounts. They're not sacrificing precious annual leave from work to be there, if that makes sense. And so you've always got to kind of marry those kind of two things up, where yes, you want to perform, have your team performing the absolute best, but equally everybody's worked really hard to be there. Everybody's sacrificing money, time, annual leave, etc., to be there. And so it's trying to balance those two things and find that happy medium. And so yeah, I'm not by any means saying that with our squads we're turning up with 2 teams of 6 and swapping every 3 sets this year, but no, I think we're trying to strike that balance of, whilst we can name up to 14 in a squad, for us, we're not realistically going to be in a position where we're going to be playing 14 players throughout the tournament. For us, it's going to be a case of a slightly smaller group that we know will get that game time on court, and then providing opportunities in other, like they say, the mixed cloth, the foam, where others can get that tournament experience and represent Wales in that way.
To kind of flip it as well, from a perspective where we are in amateur sport, it is kind of awesome that we can try these kind of things, and then this is a space to do it right before it hopefully gets professional, who knows. But it's kind of awesome to see these different things, and I kind of love it when I'm like, oh, they've done something I haven't seen before. Like when Spain rocked up and, like you said, prioritized mixed and then started whipping ass and they were doing great. It's just like, oh damn, these players are class. And it's just like, oh cool, I like that they prioritized it. Unlike what your women did last year, it's really cool, and it's just nice to see different things. And I hope like other nations can have the ability to try different stuff and bring like new metas into what dodgeball is. And I think the more we push it, the more entertaining it's going to become, and hopefully more palatable for other people to come and watch it. So I think it's kind of awesome.
I mean, this is the other thing as well. We have to also, with the fact that people are paying their own money and annual leave, if there's a tournament in the future that's miles and miles and miles away, that might rule out, certainly for a squad like Wales, where we've got more limited resources. And so, yeah, we might turn around for that tournament and say, do you know what? We've got 3 of our best women here. We've got 3 of our best men. Let's pile everything into the mixed team. That might be the way we go. We might not. I don't know. But, you've got to take those you got to probably take it, not be too fixed in your mindset with these kind of things, and take kind of each tournament on an individual perspective, really.
Definitely. And you need like those core principles. We always say like winning is obviously one thing we set really high, and that is one of the fundamentals that we try to satisfy. But the other thing is, and that is probably a big part for you as well, is like growing the sport in your country and like setting you up for success in the long run. Mm-hmm. And so if you win today and tomorrow your team is gone and you have no one left because the other 10 players weren't happy about their playing time, then that's not going to be sustainable for long. So it's sort of having the ambiguity between those different goals and really knowing where you are at as a nation, as a program. And probably when you're England and you have a player pool of seemingly 2 other nations of infinite players, they probably have a very different approach to that, because it's much more the competitive level and only results count, basically. That's what I'm feeling. And then it's what we can see from the outside, at least. If that doesn't happen, then it's really tough to get those vibes up, and maybe you lose stuff that maybe other nations that maybe don't win as much, but who prioritize the whole experience for the squad and the development. And I think we've seen a few nations, for example, as you said, Spain is a nation where I feel like there really has always been like that progression and from the whole squad, and you see more players every time and everyone gets better and they sort of push each other up, and then the pinnacle of their game is really strong, and you need that that foundation to really get that peak performance. And if you just focus on one, you're going to lose the other, and vice versa. So yeah, it's a struggle for every team I've talked to up to now.
Yeah, and it's having that relative success, isn't it? And I think for us in Wales, like if we can walk away from this Euros, and it's very much our aspiration, as Elisa's already said, to walk away with some silverware. Like we are going after silverware this year. You know, and I think there's certainly a few of our teams can potentially look at that as a real goal. And I think, you know, if we were able to get that, and similarly for somebody like Spain, you know, you want to be able to see that you're able to compete, right? And that can then inspire those kind of next generation, or that can inspire that investment. You know, if we get a couple of medals out of this tournament, the marketing we can do with that to you know, potentially, you know, going back to our first part of the conversation around, you know, can that help springboard creation of a couple of clubs in Wales potentially, you know, joining a sport where Wales can win something, you know, it's, and I suppose for somebody like Spain, you know, where they put a very competitive team together and they can see where they can have success. I think that's really important for that kind of development of those nations. So I think, yeah, whilst Elisa is like bouncing between, you know, all four walls at the moment in terms of excitement, I'm very excited, but also shaking.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm a nice amount of anxiety.
Yeah.
I'm just pushing that down, you know.
I think you know, the difference is though between me and you, Elisa, is that you can influence it on court, and I cannot do anything. So, but yeah, I think, you know, I've got so much belief in this squad that we've put together, and
yeah, me too.
I think the other thing as well is we went through, like I say, we had a bit of a rocky Croatia. There is no doubt about that. Like I say, we made some mistakes. We got quite a few things wrong, but we learned a huge amount. And I think the key bit is that we've implemented a lot of that learning and made some changes. And also, particularly, for instance, you know, using our women's team as an example, we also blooded a couple of new players in that tournament who have grown substantially. Like we were playing a couple of players that we could see real potential and promise with in that team, that maybe hadn't even been noticed too much by their domestic club at that time, if I'm being completely honest. But now they're using Wales as a bit of a springboard to help them with their club as well. And obviously with their own determination and things, they're escalating, and you know, they're really succeeding at their club. And obviously that's reflecting really well when they come back into the Wales setup as well. And so, yeah, that confidence and growth is really helping. And I think we've done that in quite a few different places across the squad now. And yeah, I think, you know, it's something's working, I think. And I think as well, the other bit that I just was keen to mention is that pride, and I think that sense of togetherness was really key last year, because as a cloth nation, we entered all three categories for cloth. And then some conversation started. We didn't necessarily have it on our radar to enter foam, if I'm completely honest with you, to enter men's foam. And we had a number of, 2 or 3 players in particular that went, if I'm not selected for cloth, can we get a foam team going? And I really, really respect them for that. And they came to me. It wasn't something necessarily that I was going to drive at that point, but they came to me and said, can we get this off the road? And huge respect. You know, we threw a team together in a couple of months, really, to play foam at the Worlds, and they did unbelievable. They worked so hard for the couple of months ahead of the tournament, and as Elisa's kind of said earlier, you know, it's allowed us to bring more players in. It's allowed, again, going back to our philosophy of being a nation of opportunity, players can come in and, do you know what? Yeah, do you know what? If you don't get a place in cloth yet, there is a place in foam where you can also have a fantastic opportunity to play. And, you know, that's again reflected that we've taken yet another step forward with having a mixed foam team this year. So, you know, we've got, you know, and we've got players now, you know, as a springboard of that foam success, that are now dedicating themselves more so for the foam side of things. And so, you know, which I'm all for it. But again, we're relying on the likes of Ronda Dragons in particular, who enter the foam league and that type of thing in the UK to drive that. And again, huge applause to all of those associated with that. But yeah, we need people like that with that passion and drive. But I think that, you know, say hopefully that comes from the fact that we've unified ourselves a little bit more and have that kind of unity to, to trust each other and to push each other to do these things.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I think that is very important to make a very fertile ground, basically, where stuff can grow from, and where you get those really invested people that maybe just need a little bit of that spark, maybe need just to experience one international tournament to really know what their passion for the sport is, and then something can grow from that. And so exposing as many people as possible, especially for a smaller nation, is, I think, the most important thing that you can do. So it's really probably a good decision from the outside that you bring in that many people.
Stefan,
basically.
how many debutants do you think Wales have blooded in the last 2 years?
The last 2 years. So the last 2 Euros or years?
In the last 2 years, since including Aussie Czech 2023, how many
so
new
Osijek
players have put the shirt on for the first
Graz.
time for a squad like Wales?
Osijek, Wex, and Wills, right?
Yeah.
3 competitions.
Okay, yeah, okay. I'm gonna go with 10, 12.
Double it.
25. So basically a whole squad. So
Yeah,
basically what Wales was a few years ago, you debuted in 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's circumstance that allows us to do that as well. So WEX being set up as a more developmental tournament helped with that. Foam option and the two tournaments being combined for the first time has helped with that. Euros having a foam for this year has helped with that, of course, but you still got to take advantage of those opportunities when they're presented. And so, the fact that we've got I think it was 22, was the number after Worlds, and it's going to be even more because we've got at least, there's 2 in the men's, there's 3 or 4 in the mixed cloth, there's even more in the foam. We're going to be 30 plus in the last 2 years, and so, which is, like I say, despite all the challenges that we have in terms of that player pool is pretty phenomenal, if I do say so for myself, really.
Yeah, for sure. That is cool. Yeah, and that just trickles down back, hopefully, to Wales, and the tip gets bigger and the bottom gets bigger of that pyramid at some point. All right. So we talked a lot about the women's category. So Phil, do you coach the men? Are you the manager for all teams? What's your position? We didn't get into that.
Oh, that's all right. So yeah, I mean, I kind of oversee all teams. It's probably a bit dangerous if I'm the sole coach for any team, to be honest. That's probably not what any of those teams need. Elisa's shaking her head.
She's nodding.
Nodding, yeah.
But I think you always need a bit of a collaborative effort on the sidelines, to be honest. It's, and I think that's healthy because one coach will see one thing and one coach will see another. And I think be able to combine that. So yeah, we do have, but yeah, I'll be on the sidelines for the women's, but, with support of a couple of others. I'll be on the sidelines for the men's and the mixed. I will be nowhere near the foam on the sidelines because I know nothing about foam, and that would be very, very dangerous. I know even less about foam than I do about cloth. Be staying away from that, and I'll just be in the stands supporting, I think, with that one. But yeah, I think
have dedicated coaches.
But we do have dedicated coaches on the foam side, and we do have dedicated coaches for all of our cloth teams as well. So,
but, as most nations, we don't have the luxury of having separate player coaches. So we still have to have obviously coaches that are players, but we're trying to cross category. So even though I'm the women's coach, when we go to a tournament, Rob and Dan are in the box, and Rob's a women's coach as well, with Phil overseeing everything, and then Sam as head coach as well. So we try to utilize all the support we can get, and try to separate player coach as much as we can, but we kind of do have to support each other where we're able to. So yeah, that's kind of like how the setup is currently.
Yeah. Okay. And I must admit, I'm really excited for our men's team this year. I think we've made,
I'm hyped.
I think hopefully, Stefan, we played you guys in Aussie Czech and you blew us off the court, I think, in the men's category. But I think I think last year we gave you a pretty tough
That
game.
first half. The
That
first half.
first half.
6-6. Woo!
Yeah, to be honest,
Do you remember being on court for it, Stefan? Because I don't remember seeing you very much.
So I remember the start of that game where I just went in, and I think it was Day or someone, or
Yeah,
Esnaf
Tim
or
Day, I
someone.
think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tim was it, and he just, I think right from the start, I think the first throw I did, he caught it looking away, and I was like, obviously that's happening. And then I think I get back in for the second set. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna place my shot better, and he hits me out with a fourth ball, and I wasn't looking at all. I was like, god damn it, that's gonna be a lot of work. And I wasn't supposed to play too much in that game. And at the end of the game, there's a famous picture, and we're still talking about it. I was sitting on the bench, and there was a lake around me. And it was not dripping from me. It was just
pouring.
a flood. It was pouring. And I've never been that wet ever before and afterwards, including swimming. And that was just ridiculous because I really had to work a lot in that game. And
I'm glad the Welsh players left you wet.
Yeah, they did leave me wet. We can just leave it at that. No, but that was obviously, I love that game because that was a really fun game because you were not playing completely traditional, I'd say. And it took us a while to get our head around your creative playing style. And I feel like we've always struggled a bit in the beginning against the Welsh team. So you said we blew you away in Osijek, and the first, I think, 6 sets or something, it was 6-6 or something. I think we were drawing quite for a long time.
Or maybe in the
there
mixed.
as well.
I think on the men. I think we gave you a challenge in the mixed in Osijek at the start.
I think in
that was
both, to be honest.
It was both.
I think it was both.
You pulled away in the second half. Both
I think
teams,
always when I think about Wales, it's always a tough start, and we always try to have to adapt to your playing style, and there is always something sort of crazy going on there with a lot of commitment and a lot of heart, and it really takes a long time to really sort of break you. And some nations go away fast when they see that they're not going to win that game, and Wales never does. And I think even thinking back to 2019 to what was it?
Newcastle,
yeah. That was our first tough game there as well, playing against Wales, and it was also really a struggle from the very beginning on. So I'm not too sad about not having you in the group this year. So maybe we see each other.
Neither are we. If I'm being honest, we're not too sad not to see you either.
Fair enough.
But no, I think, but for a nation like us, on the men's side, obviously there is the big three, right? Yourselves included, with England and NI currently, and I don't mean that disrespectively to any other nation. I think it's pretty well known that is the established top three at the moment. And I think so when we play you guys, that is a real barometer of kind of, for me anyway, I see those as a real barometer of kind of progression for us. And so, the fact that we played far better against you guys and gave you guys a much better game, in my opinion, in the Worlds last year compared to what the Euros the year before, shows that we're playing far more as a team. We're playing far more collectively. We're a lot more aligned, I think, than maybe we were in 2023. And so that shows me that we're moving in the right direction. And we've made a couple of additions ahead of this one. And we've got a couple of players that have also progressed really nicely over the last couple of years.
They've been smashing it.
And they've been tearing it up in the English leagues in particular. And so, we're really excited about the team that we're going to take to take to Limerick. Sorry, and we'll take on the NI boys, and we'll put them to the sword. But
that's what's exciting, though. Even though there is a top three, it's becoming less and less prominent that there's a gap. And I feel like the 4 to 9 category, in especially men's and women's, I no less so in mixed, it's just so much tighter. And you have teams that you don't really look at teams and think, oh, this will be fine. You're kind of like, oh no, they've actually really developed over the last few years. So it's taken players from different sports, and they've come in and they're smashing in. They've got a different technique of how they're playing the game, and it's just awesome to see that the growth of the sport since I started playing in 2017 has just grown substantially. And that's what you want. You want a tough game. You want to have. You don't want to play a game that's 24-0. You want a game that's like you're fighting horrible when you're doing it. Yeah, okay, but still, that's what you want to see. So I think especially in Worlds and stuff, that was really reflective. That all the games was so close and tight. And it's just, the gap is closing in more and more, and it'll be nice to see different teams on the podium and not potentially the same teams that we've always seen. And I think this year, you may see it.
You will see it. You will see it.
Yeah.
So I'm going
honestly,
with Will.
Yeah, I honestly believe so too. So I've just looked through the groups a few days ago, and I was like, okay, looking through our groups, and was like, okay, our groups are really tough. Where are the easy groups? And then I looked through the next group, and I'm like, okay, that's quite tough as well. And then I looked through, and I'm like, okay, that's really, and it was always like where you had those few nations where like, I don't want to have those nations in my group, and otherwise it's going to be fine. And now it's coming more and more that you think not about one team, at least for us. Like there was always like one team in our group, and I knew, okay, we sort of, that's where our full squad has to play, and then there are a few players have to play, and that is basically the third game is where anyone can play. And it's getting less and less of that. And I think that is really cool. It's really not fun for me as an aging dodgeballer who wants to play both divisions, but in the end that is what we want. And I think, as you said, those tough matches, those tough games are what we are there for. And
it's most entertaining as well. So
yeah, definitely. And as happy as I always am if the game is easy and I can rest my body, it makes it worth so much more, especially also for the top three nations.
Because I'll tell you what, though, I would slightly disagree when you're the manager on the sidelines and you can't control anything, but the games are super tight. And whilst you trust your team, it's stressful. And don't get me wrong.
Never in doubt. Come on, Phil.
Don't get me wrong. I love it. And there is something unique about it. And I absolutely love it. But God, the girls in particular put me through the ringer every time they play on court. Like,
I'm gonna second that.
They
not always, but sometimes.
Oh my goodness! And the men, I think, yes, they frustrate me at times more because I know they've got more. They've got more that they can show on court at times.
I always say when the game's a bit spicy, I like to make it entertaining for the fans, for the spectators.
For the spectators,
we don't want
to
bore it. I intentionally threw that catch at the last second.
All for the fans.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's just for the reels and the fans. That's what we're here for.
And the highlights afterwards.
Exactly. You're a coach, you don't get it, but it's all about that reel. Yeah, but I feel you there extremely, because I think as a player, there is nothing I love more than a close game. Yeah. And the most important thing is winning that close because winning a really close game, that is just so satisfying, and there's so many emotions, and that's just euphoric. Losing a close game, and luckily in the past I've been very fortunate on that side, is a whole different side. And I think winning a game that after the half that you won it, it's just I don't care for it at all. But as a coach, as you said, I'm for them. I'm like, I just always tell my women's team, please, please, please make it easy on me. And they most often do. Sometimes they don't, but at this Worlds, they really made it easy for me. And basically the train ran itself, and I was just there and whooping at the sideline
with a cocktail. Recliner.
This was really this was a treat for me and Andy personally. And I feel like we deserved it, and so we took it, and we felt really good about ourselves, and it cost me almost zero energy, and that was fantastic, because the rest of this world cost me all the energy. I had nothing to spare. So I'm really not excited in that regard for this year's Euros, because I have a feeling it's going to be tough for everyone this year. And obviously once you win a lot, you go there to win, and we really have to focus as well. We're going to try to win every game and every title there is, but it's probably going to be the toughest tournament that we've ever seen in terms of that. So I think it's also important to celebrate those different wins, that it's not all about the titles, it's for the experience and to perform as a group, and really celebrate the growth that you have as a nation, celebrate new players entering the fold, celebrating the growth of the whole community, and celebrating that a group game is a really tough game, and a quarterfinal is a really tough game. And so it's not just about those last few games, it's about every game now. And that is so cool to see. Yeah.
It's the journey. It's not the But no, I definitely agree with that. I did see you in your armchair in that semi-final though last year, and it really hurt me. But yeah, it was. And I don't know about you, Elisa. We felt okay. First couple of sets. Okay, we'll get a foothold in the game. And then a whole new 6 turn up on court opposite us, and it's like, okay, how do we go with this?
Yeah, that semis was a tough one. It's just because, I think as well, what was frustrating is that we would go up. I think we went up like 4 sets in a row, and then we lost it by like throwing a catch, or like it was ridiculous. Like it was literally the same mistake every time. And then a fresh 6 came on, and we were like, we're blowing over here now. Like we put everything into being up and then losing, and it's just like crap. But it must have been nice in that semi.
But I've been on the other side in the past, not as a coach so much, but as a player, and I really enjoyed that experience, to be honest. So.
But I think though, when you don't come out on top, you learn an awful lot. And for us, I think in Wales, there's been a number, like the Worlds last year was about us correcting what we perceived as quite a few wrongs that in ourselves from previous tournaments. So on the women's side, we'd lost to Hungary in the groups. We'd lost to Italy in the quarterfinals. We beat them both, as well as France, who we've lost to in the past as well. And so we felt like, and I don't mean any disrespect to those teams, but we felt like we, that we were getting to where we're supposed to be.
Well, it was our redemption, right?
There was redemption for us in that. And
I'm trying to prove that like this is like what we've come to do, and we just failed to do it before, but doesn't mean that we couldn't. We just we messed up at the time, but we came back fighting. So,
and the same for the men as well. We lost to Netherlands to get knocked out in the groups. In Osijek, and we were drawn against the Netherlands again in the Worlds, and we beat them, and then there was a few other kind of results that we got, and so you use those as again as barometers of kind of your progress as to where you are. And I think I'm not necessarily I may be slightly biased, but I'm not necessarily sure our ranking at the moment is quite where we should be. And so I think for me, if we can a deep run into the tournament on the men's cloth side in particular would be amazing. But like I say, I don't want it all to be cloth either, because I think our men's foam in particular are quietly confident of a very successful tournament.
I think so too.
They played, like I say, basically 6 weeks of practice up ahead of the foam world champs, and came 12th, but I think 4th out of all European nations, and so beaten a couple of European nations in the groups and later down the tournament as well. So I feel they're feeling quite confident of, and obviously they've had another 12 months on top of that. So I think there's a lot of optimism, I think, in the Welsh camp, and to be honest, a lot of optimism that we haven't had in previous years. I remember turning up in 2018, and I'm not sure there was much optimism in 2018 in terms of what we could do as a nation. I think we're just all there to see what happens, type of thing. Whereas I think now we're approaching this in a different way. So I'm super excited, but will be a bag of nerves, and will probably be as wet as I was in the Worlds, but with sweat. We'll clarify with sweat, but even if it's really cold in Limerick, I will still be there, panicking.
It'd be a blessing if it was cold, I'm not gonna lie.
For sure.
Get rid of that mop.
Yeah.
For God's sake. The first group game we played against USA lasted an hour and a half because they had to stop so many times. Well, that was some ref decisions, but mostly mopping.
It's mostly mopping, yes. I really hope the mop gets a rest this tournament.
Yeah, bless. Real MVP.
He's the true real MVP, but he should go into retirement. He did enough. at that tournament for
He
sure.
was overworked. He
Yeah,
deserves a pay
so
rise.
he was wet
Whatever
as well.
funding we've got,
Yeah.
funding we've got, we need to invest it in.
And he's
mobs.
not supposed to be wet. He's supposed to be still dry
Yeah,
after his
literally.
work is done, and he was not dry anymore.
He
There
was
was
not.
not much left in the mob.
To absorb, yeah.
Yeah.
It's done.
So I think, as you said, it's very close to the tournament, and there's a lot of excitement. And there's also, for me personally, there's always a lot of not anxiety. I wouldn't call it anxiety, but still there's a little bit of nervousness because there's so much unknown, and you know what your maybe that's a better word. Let's take that, apprehension. So there's a lot of apprehension, as I just said, because you know what your team has done, and you know sort of your progression, and you touched on it a little bit. When you lose to someone, you know what's your next step ahead, basically, and you can try to get rid of those errors, try to watch a little bit what they do, and try to at least catch up and maybe to the next step. But sort of once you don't lose, and which is a very nice problem to have, it just gets weird up there. At least that's my experience, and you really have no idea whatsoever because there are no.
Tell me more about it, Stefan.
Yeah,
I've never been
I will.
There. Like,
it's gonna be another half an hour. just me telling you that.
Tell me about those awful problems at the top.
Me,
so
myself,
bad,
and my 10 gold medals.
Yeah.
I don't know if Max told you, he put in the managers group chat that's been set up, he I think that when the draw came out, whatever, you put a little jokey comment of, we don't like our draw, it looks really tough. And I said, as 3 times world champs, I don't have much sympathy. You'll cope.
But that's exactly, and that's where my problems come in, because no one has any sympathy for you at this point.
and everyone's rooting against you, right? Because everyone goes to the underdog. And
you're
that's
you're the target.
Yeah. And the thing is, that is something I really like. I really enjoy, like, in the situation, the pressure and like the adversity, that is really awesome. But like having no goalpost whatsoever at this point is really weird. And you know you're working, and you know you try to improve, but you feel like you're falling behind because everyone else has a very specific goal in mind, and they're gonna work really hard because they have something to prove, and they have that redemption in their minds, and you're just there trying to hold on to all the stuff you've got, and no one has any sympathy, which they shouldn't have. But it's just a weird feeling. And so for me personally, it just settled once I'm really touching the court, and I feel like, okay, it's still dodgeball, and still people have improved, people play better than they did a year ago, but it's still dodgeball, and I know what I'm doing, and and sort of this feels much more natural and much more you can handle that situation. But now it's just coming a big bubble in my mind where I'm like, what haven't I thought of?
I guess though, for Stefan, for you guys, it's maybe not even thinking about Worlds, but maybe thinking about previous Euros, right? Because obviously your women rarely lose, but they did lose the last European final, right? And so there's an obvious motivator maybe for them in terms of from their perspective, let's get our title back. And Northern Ireland obviously won the men's, right? So there's targets there that maybe to flip that rhetoric a little bit. It's what a privileged place to be. But,
Let me whine for it. Let me whine about it for a bit longer.
It sounds like being Real Madrid or Barcelona in football, doesn't it? Oh no, so tough at the top.
Yeah, but there's pros and cons to everything, and that's what's awesome about sport, right? So it's good.
But it's a shame it's a shame you'll lose to Wales in all the categories. And
if it's in the final and you give us a good run, I'll not be happy about it in that situation. But afterwards, I'll be fine with it. So
after a few drinks,
after a few drinks, I'll definitely be fine with it. If you guys beat us in the final, so be it. Then heads off to you. You did a good job, and
I'd take it. I'd absolutely take it.
And so you should, but I'll not give it to you. So you'll have to take it, basically.
Wouldn't expect anything less.
That's the only thing. So, I'm really absolutely excited. I can't wait. We have Vienna calling the day after tomorrow.
I was going to say this weekend,
which is going to be a good sparring ground to having to play lots of matches through 3 days tournament. So this is going to be a fun.
So you're all going to be tired. Is this what you're telling me? You're all going to be tired.
I'm going to be very tired on Tuesday, but then I
sounds
have
like some
2
excuses.
weeks to
I was going
rest.
to say 2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, 2 weeks rest, and I'll be fine. I'll be definitely not going to be tired too soon.
Tip-top shape
yeah,
to win
so
some
if
medals.
you want to see me tired, you have to come to me at the after party. I'll be very tired there, or maybe in a final against Wales. I'm going to be sweating even in Ireland.
As older folk, we need a little bit more sleep, though, don't we, Stefan? You know, it's
something you don't get used to, apparently.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I can understand it.
So on that note, how old are you, Elisa?
28.
For fuck's sake, Phil.
Wait, do I look older, Stefan?
No, you don't. But you've been around for a long time, so I was at least hoping.
Oh my god, my
older.
class is one of the oldies now. Damn, this is bad.
You're a long time dodgeballer now.
Yeah.
Oh god, that's weird.
Yeah. And you, Phil?
See, I'm 38.
Okay, so that's a man I want to talk to at the after party. So he's going to be in the same shape as me, and he won't have.
As in wanting to go to bed. Yeah.
And you haven't played a single game, and we're going to be in the same shape.
Probably, you know, I'm going to feel like I've played the games, but you know, we'll see.
To be fair, standing there for 12 hours gives you a bad back.
It's so hard. It's so hard. Yeah, standing is much. That's why we need chairs for the coaches.
Voluntarily watching Wales for 12 hours. Yes, that can give anybody a headache.
An aneurysm at times.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh god. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So I'd say let's bring this home with a little bit of a prediction. So you already made a few bold claims. I love that. So I'm going to start with you, Elisa. Tell me up the top 5 in the women's division for the cloth.
Top 5.
Top 5 in order. And as always, if you make the right prediction, you get at least one drink at the after party from me of your choice. So I'm gonna have to fuck up a lot of predictions to not get poor at this after party. Maybe we have to come 6th.
You sound like Scotty Whitelaw right now.
I know how much was the Spartans party already.
Not yet.
No,
but
okay, because I know how much he's gonna pay. So if you want inside information, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
A lot.
Okay. I'll go from 5th to 1st. God, this is really hard. Northern Ireland, Italy, England, Wales, Austria.
It's in the books. Okay, so that's not a lot of confidence for the final, but I'll take it. So 5th rank, Northern Ireland. 4th, Italy. 3rd, England. 2nd, Wales. And 1st, Austria. I have no idea if that is possible from the group draws, but we'll log that in. I like it. That's a good prediction.
I think it is. That's why. Otherwise, I would put Northern Ireland above Italy, but I don't think it works out like that.
Yeah, because they're in a group with England. Yeah. So we're gonna play probably Italy, Northern Ireland, or England in the quarterfinals.
Exactly. So I think.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that's how it works. Yeah.
Wow,
so
that's really smart. You're the first person who can predict with the schedule already out, so you have a distinct advantage, and that is a really smart thing to do. So okay. We'll log that in and see how it turns out.
In my heart, Wales first. But
fair enough. But you want that drink at the after party.
I really want that drink, actually. Yeah, maybe I did really pick drink over heart there, didn't I? Yeah. That's probably sorry, guys.
But in all fairness, like the fact that your head is setting 2nd just shows the progression that we think we're making. So I think.
So you want still a little bit of progression to be left after this tournament. That is smart.
Oh no! If a gold medal's on offer, mate, we're not saying no to it. We're not going to go. Oh no, we're not ready for this yet.
You didn't give me the prediction of the score in the final. 14-12 overtime, sudden death by one player. Okay.
Oh, that's going to cost so many
great 2 drinks.
Okay, I'm not going to be at the after party if it's that close.
I'm going to be in the hospital.
Yeah, for sure. Someone has to carry me. So Lisa, you're going to carry me. I'm going to pay
if I'm going to go medal, I'll carry you anyway, Stefan.
Okay.
I'll squat
you. Fair enough. That's a deal. That's a deal. So it's a win-win situation for me for the after party.
Yes.
Okay. I like that. So Phil, you have to follow that. That's going to be tough. You're going to start with the men's category.
Men's cloth. 5 upwards.
Mhm.
All right.
Any few
Scotland in
groups.
5. Wales in 4. England in 3.
Ooh.
And then, because that would make a repeat of the final from last time in the Euros, right? But I think Ireland pretty much at home. So I'll take Northern Ireland over you guys. But if that was the case, if it was an NI Austria final again, that is flip a coin and see what
Okay.
happens, isn't it? But
So we'll lock that in as well, because I think you didn't read the schedule as closely as Elisa there. But it's possible that way.
I think
But
it is possible,
but the thing is, I think
or is it not?
I
Would it
think
not be
we'll have
possible?
to.
Would you be
It
playing Northern
depends.
Ireland? Yeah, you might play
Yeah,
Northern Ireland in the semis.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Let me go back again.
I'll give you a second chance, but maybe I don't know if we.
If that's the case, then yeah,
Yeah.
maybe England against one of you two. Oh God! But then you did beat them at the Worlds, didn't you? So
Yeah, but yeah,
Elisa,
isn't it
you
that?
are not allowed to help him out here. Okay, you're co-coach, so you can.
fine,
Wait,
fine.
no, actually, wait. I'm just gonna say because don't Northern Ireland lose to Austria, Austria lose to England, England lose to Northern Ireland,
Yeah,
right? That's the
that's
kind
the
of like
triangle. Yeah,
that's normally the triangle.
yeah.
So with that in mind, then would Northern Ireland therefore against Austria in the semi? Who would win that? What Austria? Okay, and then Austria beat England in the. Yeah, go on, and I'll do that. I'll say NI 3, Austria 1, and England 2.
Okay, so
Wales 4, because I think there's a route for us to get there, and
Yeah.
Scotland 5, because
perfect. I'll just lock that in, and I'll pay you a drink right now just to manifest that.
yeah,
That would be
that would be good.
I don't know if it's my prediction, but that would be my dream. That's what I'm dreaming about, is Phil's prediction. I'm gonna
Yeah.
just visualize
All
that.
right, all
And
right,
if I
that sounds
need
good.
any like any help or someone who really feels confident in that, and I'm gonna talk to Phil, because his predictions always come true.
Oh, I don't know about
He
that.
said Wales is gonna do really well at this Euros, and Austria is gonna beat England in the final. I'll just take that.
I like it.
I'll take those odds actually. Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
Wales women first, you said,
Okay.
Stefan. Yeah,
So,
cool,
yeah.
good, nice.
So I
Well done.
really hope I have to pay a drink to Phil and not to and to Elisa. So perfect. So we're gonna have a really fun after party, guys. This is gonna be a nice corner.
Yeah.
What
Full of
about
smiles.
what about Mixclough? Are we getting in
Yeah.
on Mixclough as well?
Of course,
Yeah,
you can
I'm just
both
looking
do
now.
mixed cloth. I don't know who's more qualified to do the mixed cloth prediction.
I
So
think it's going to be Austria 1.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, England 2nd. It's going to be Austria England again. Finals, I think.
Northern Ireland 3.
Yes, and then.
But I
where's
do
Spain?
believe the semi-final route would be against England, to be honest.
Oh yeah, it would be, wouldn't it be? Indeed. Yeah.
I'm just helping you
No,
win
that's
drinks.
good. Yeah. I'd say.
Wait, B play D in the semi-finals.
Yeah, that's how it would be.
C is linked to A, yeah.
I see. Oh, so it's A, B for quarters, and then
Yeah.
I see. Oh, right, that is spicy.
Mm.
Oh, that's a final in the semis then. Oof.
Mm.
Ooh, that's really exciting. Okay, so that means. Oh, actually, because did you guys do Austria Northern Ireland in Drachten semis? Sorry, finals for mixed.
Finals, yeah.
For mixed, yeah. That was a great game actually. That was fun.
Yeah, no, wasn't.
Oh, you guys lost in it. Yeah, oh yeah. Sorry.
It's completely fine.
No, I just remember Shannon played amazing, and I just literally that's all I could think. Oh, and Adam, of course. Yeah, he was absolutely popping off that tournament, wasn't he? Yeah, he did really well.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, this is interesting. Okay. Okay, yeah, Austria, Northern Ireland then, and then England probably plays Spain, right? So yeah, and then England, Spain.
I think Spain. I was going to say Spain in 4-5, something like that.
Because I think looking at the route, that's probably the strongest.
And maybe Scotland sneak a 5th.
Yes, I think I put Spain in front of Scotland, to be honest. Well, and Netherlands as well, haven't they got? Haven't they kind of been working on some of the arms they've got? Actually, yeah, Czech.
The Czechs, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good
because they gave England a really good game in the groups last year.
That
was a hell of a game. Is it then number 3? I can't remember his name. Sorry, but
Hübner.
He played very, very well.
Italy aren't to be ruled out either.
This is gonna go on for a long time.
Yeah, no, I'm putting. Well, Phil, you pick 4 and 5 then.
I'll go Spain, Scotland.
All right. So you log that in. First Austria, second Northern Ireland, third England, fourth Spain, and fifth Scotland.
Iceman's ridiculous. Is he playing? I'm presuming he's playing because
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I've never played him. I've never played Spain.
is the
I'm
most-
so looking forward to playing Spain, and I'll not get the chance probably.
that we played him in WECs.
Awesome.
He's outrageous.
But
He's
also
outrageous.
incredibly honest and a very humble guy. And
Yeah.
he's very young as well. Like, to have all those qualities and be insane at dodgeball is very rare, I would say. So
And yet,
I have a lot
it's
of
called
respect.
Iceman. And
Yeah,
yet it's called
exactly.
Iceman. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
I was so hoping to play against him. I really hope we somehow manage it. I don't think it is possible, but maybe. We'll see about that. But okay, so basically your prediction is we win the triple, and I pay you a lot of drinks. So I will gladly
that is the
take that.
triple.
Yeah. Okay.
I
I
don't
would.
know how happy am I with that anymore. You guys already done the triple. Give it to someone else.
No, I really need
How many triples do you really need? You know,
all of them. This is a historic moment. So if your predictions come to fruition, then I've completed dodgeball and I can do something else. Maybe play some foam, because we for the first time won the National League triple 2 weeks ago. So we for the first time won men's, women's, and mixed. And we've
Amazing.
obviously won the CEC and the World's triple. So that is the last sort of international stage that we need to fill out.
So what you're saying is, if you do the triple, you might as well retire and let everybody else have a go. Is that what you're saying?
Probably not, but I'll find. No, I'm pretty sure I won't. I hope I'll achieve
No, I'm
that.
joking, I'm
I
joking.
don't think it will be that easy.
No.
You made it sound really easy, and I
we
like
didn't.
that. But
We didn't.
but yeah, if I do that, I don't know what I do, but maybe I'll pay
Should we
the
just do
drinks
a-
at the after party for everyone.
I just kind of love how, like, the European nations retire into foam and then, like, the Americans retire into
Yeah.
cloth.
Yeah,
I just
it's so
I love
awesome.
it
Yeah.
so much. It's so cool. And like
it's like a little bit of a troll for the other format for everyone.
literally is.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to let go of the community. I'll just pick this up. I'm like, oh, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah, I think it's
But
only going to be possible for the next maybe 1 or 2 years, and afterwards
max. Yeah.
not. Max. It depends on which country you're at this moment.
That's
but
true.
yeah.
Because already, like, looking at the England setup,
Yeah.
the talent in the foam squads, it's so deep already.
Yeah.
It's really good. Yeah, I'm excited to see them at Worlds, to be fair.
Yeah, for
Depending
sure.
where it is.
Yeah,
I
I'm
was
really
gonna say,
looking forward to the foam side as well.
I think from my limited foam knowledge, I would probably put England down for a triple in foam.
They should, comfortably,
Yeah.
in my opinion. But
Yeah, I think there maybe Italy is really good. Spain also plays sort of foam dodgeball for a long time, so they're probably going to be good.
Interesting.
Our team is not that bad either, and they are there to win some silverware as well.
So
as
is
you
the
said.
Wales men's.
So the Wales men. So I think the competition is going to be much better than it was a year ago in Graz. I think a lot of nations
completely
really found out that foam is also dodgeball, and dodgeball is really fun. So foam is really fun, and I think the progression on that side is going to be huge.
Yeah,
And
foam
it's-
only gets more entertaining when we don't spike balls.
Yeah.
And games don't last 20 minutes. And the games don't last 20 minutes when people are good, so...
Yeah, exactly. You've summarized it perfectly.
Put me down though for another medal for Wales in foam men's.
Okay, good prediction.
100%.
I'll take it.
I definitely back that as well.
All right. If there's anything else that you guys would like to get into, now's the time. I think I've seen something on your socials that might be interesting for people to talk or hear about.
Yeah, so something that I think is very pertinent for the Wales squad at the moment is so one of our players, Katie, who's been a big part of Wales for a number of years. I know Elisa, for instance, mentioned earlier in the pod that we took 6 girls to Italy in 2018. And Katie was one of those 6, and so she's been a big part of Wales for a number of years. So last August, just ahead of the Worlds, Katie was named in our squad. She was ready to go and play, but unfortunately experienced liver failure just ahead of the tournament, and unfortunately that meant she couldn't attend any longer, of course, and had to obviously focus on appropriate recovery and what have you. it has meant that she's unfortunately not been able to play in any kind of competitive dodgeball. She's had to really obviously focus all of her energies on managing her body and managing her health. And obviously we've missed her around the Wales setup. She's always a big positive ball of energy, and really brings, we've been talking a lot about vibes and things like that, and Katie's been a big part of that. I'm not going to try and pronounce the name of her of her condition. It's on our post on social media if anybody wants to have a read. But yeah, essentially, Katie's now on the liver transplant list in the UK. And so what we wanted to do this year at the Euros and beyond is just raise a little bit of awareness, really, for a charity that Katie has utilised in a charity called the British Liver Trust. They've given her like loads of support and resources and things to help her obviously come to terms with all of this, of all of these challenges that she's facing, and various support groups and communications with her. So we wanted to do our bit to, I suppose, raise awareness of this. And so a nice little addition to our shirts this year will be on the back of the shirts. We're going to have the British Liver Trust logo. On all of our social media posts, we're going to feature the British Liver Trust logo as well. And then the team will be taking part in a little fundraising event after the Euros that I can tell you a little bit more about it. But yeah, we just wanted to kind of really show solidarity, and unfortunately Katie's not going to be able to come across to Limerick even in a supporting capacity, because she she has to focus on kind of her recovery and things. So yeah, we just wanted to kind of show that kind of solidarity and unity from the squad, really, and show that we're all supporting her and sending all the love and positive vibes back from Ireland back over to somewhere in London, where Katie will probably be watching all of our games from, knowing Katie, and probably messaging me a lot about all the coaching decisions that I've got wrong. So yeah, so we're really proud to be kind of partnering with the British Liver Trust and just highlighting kind of the brilliant work that the charity do, really.
Okay, yeah, that's obviously a really tough thing to go through, but a good thing to have such a community behind you and having a team that really stands behind you and supports you in times like those. So all the best to Katie. Hope if you're listening to this, we wish you all the best and a good recovery, and that at some point you're going to be wearing that Cymru dress again.
Well
with
done.
the
Well
liver.
done.
Yeah, I'm giving it my best. You really chickened out on that pronunciation of the disease she's got.
I did.
So
I
maybe
did.
we're
Yeah.
gonna hold you accountable for that. But
Yeah.
no,
Fair
for
enough.
sure, that is obviously something that is tough, and we like to have everything positive in dodgeball and around dodgeball, but that is a part that can pretty much happen to everybody, and so it's really good to see that the community holds together in times like those as well. So yeah,
So I've got a
my
bit of
heart
a
goes out
dodge.
to you, Katie.
Yeah, and I've got a little bit of an exclusive for you, Stefan, if you like, for your podcast, in terms of what
Okay.
the team will be doing to raise a few funds after the Euros. So here's an exclusive for you. So the British Liver Trust are doing a virtual challenge starting from the 1st of July, so that works out really well, where I'm sure you have it in Austria and other countries have similar challenges, but in the UK, a popular challenge is that you see a lot where people will undertake kind of challenges for charity, and the a very popular one is going what they call from John O'Groats to Land's End.
Okay.
And basically that's going from the furthest tip north of the UK to the furthest tip south. And it's the kind of the biggest distance you can do in kind of one journey. So John O'Groats is the town in a little tiny village, really, in Scotland, at the very top of Scotland. And Land's End is this hamlet, if you like, it's a couple of houses, but it's right on like the little leg bit that points out of England towards Ireland. And so the virtual challenge will be, I think we've got about 20 of our squad signed up to all kind of contribute doing the virtual distance. So it's about 860 something miles. We've got 3 months to do it. And so we're going to be all doing a few miles, whether we're walking it, running it, dancing it, rowing it, whatever we want to do. We're all going to kind of contribute a few miles each. And raise hopefully some money in the process for the British Liver Trust. And so really excited to be doing it. Will hopefully keep me a little bit fitter after Euros. But yeah, I think it's just doing it for a good cause, and obviously a cause that means a lot to us in the Wales squad, really.
Yeah, that's incredible. So I'm gonna try to add some miles to that as well, even though I'm not the biggest fan of cardio. So I'm just gonna see what I can do.
You're more than welcome to join us, absolutely. And so I mean, you can dance it if you like. They're not.
That sounds more like me.
That's how.
Gonna start at the after party.
I've seen your moves going on the dance floor. So
So I'm not gonna come far, but I'm gonna sweat a lot. Basically.
There we go. So
we keep the theme of the podcast.
Absolutely.
Okay, no, that is pretty incredible. So yeah, that's a good thing. So everyone, if you want to support the British Liver Fund, is it?
A British Liver Trust.
Liver Trust, not fund. Yeah.
We'll be doing a post on our social media channel about the challenge that we're going to be doing, and obviously we'll be putting in kind of the links and things for raising those funds. So so please do keep an eye out. But a little bit of an exclusive. The post will probably land after this podcast goes out. So hence the exclusivity. Yes. But yes, we'll definitely, you'll see plenty on our social media channels, obviously in the lead up to Euros, but also of course afterwards, once we've all started to contribute those miles, and hopefully we'll be able to get that 800 odd miles from John O'Groats to Land's End before the end of September.
Translate that into kilometers as well, because
kilometers.
That's just a lot.
It's
like
probably
1,600.
It'll be 1,000.
Or something.
Yeah. Let me get the right.
So that we know what we got ahead of us. And I'll try to, if you send me the links, I'll post them down beneath the podcast on my socials as well.
Excellent. So it's 874 miles. And so that is, according to Google, 1,406 kilometers.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that.
We can do it. I'm sure we can. Especially if we're splitting it between a number of others. So, we'll be throughout the summer. We'll probably do some posts, regular kind of maybe stories or posts to kind of update how we're doing and all of that kind of thing. So the Dodgeball community are great for supporting that. It's been the post that we put out that Katie was fantastic, by the way, to kind of share her story. She hadn't necessarily shared it publicly previously, but it was overwhelming in terms of the reception it got. I think it's our most, I hate using the word popular for a post like this, but it was the most popular post we've ever had. The reshares and the comments and all those things. It was really, and I think it meant a lot to Katie as well, that just seeing the kind of the outpouring of love and support from the Dodgeball community and the wider community as well. And I think so. We'll continue to do our bit in Wales for the trust.
Amazing. Yeah, that is great. So I hope some of you guys listening will help with a few miles, kilometers, or some money. So cool. Well, Katie, get well soon, and I hope you get the treatment you need, and we'll see you soon on the pitch again.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. So I think that's it for us. The predictions are in. I'm really happy with them. You guys are really happy with them. So it's time to go to bed.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having us, Stefan. Really appreciate it. Love the work that you're doing with the podcast as well. It's really awesome to listen to. And I can't wait. I won't see you on the court directly, but I'll see you stressing around the court, and I can't wait.
Yeah. You're going to see me sweating in Ireland.
I was going to say, he's going to be stressing when Wales are playing Austrian women. He's going to be on the sidelines stressing.
As it sounds, I'm going to be stressing either way. Where we face Wales, I think I'm gonna be wet. That's that's a controversial thing to say, but I'll stick with it. So
New
thanks, guys.
Intercity. Yeah.
Thanks
Moist.
for hopping on. This was
Moist.
really fun. Yeah, moist. That doesn't make it any better. I feel
It
like.
makes it so much worse.
Yeah. So what's the Welsh word for wet?
Gwlyb.
Oh fuck, I can't explain.
Gwlyb. You can do it.
Gwlyb. So
Yeah,
I'm
that was
gonna
really
be
good.
Gwlyb.
Yeah, I love that. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
Okay. Let's end it with that. So thank you guys for hopping on. And with that, keep throwing those balls. Try not to get caught, and take care, everyone. So prepare to get Gwlyb.